Hi there. So I set up this pack to play Wordle by setting the date to each day of January 2022 from 1st to the 6th day. I'm using cyclock command overwriting the current date, and for each test, and I construct the test individually, we look at the word list, and we have word list in the local closure variable right here. And if the word list is not set yet, then we will set up the intercept, find the bundle, insert our little assignment trick to put the bundle word list into a window property, and then we will get this array from the window object and save it. Now this is all nice and it works. Let's see how it runs. Okay, so it grabbed the first bundle, right, by intercepting the JavaScript request, getting the word list, using it, and when it runs for the second day, it already has the word list, doesn't have to intercept anything. Nice and easy. Well, this is such a common operation, right? Have some piece of test data that you need to construct somehow, or fetch from somewhere, or extract from verification, or load from a picture file, all the jazz, right? That, especially if it's expensive, you don't want to do in every test, and you don't want to write all this custom code that checks if word list is set or not, or if it's still valid or not. This is why I've written cypress-data-session plugin. So let's try rewrite this spec using cypress-data-session so the construction and extraction of word list is nice and convenient. So I'm going to close this test and I'm going to close Cypress Test Runner. I will install the plugin. Perfect. What else do I have to do? I have to add this line to the support file. Right now it's empty, so let's just add this plugin there. And in my plugins file, I have to add the cypress-data-session plugin initialization. Okay, let's open Cypress again, and let's maybe copy this spec so we can see the difference. Let's say word data session. Okay, so I'm going to collapse everything but what we're actually doing here. So right now we have a word list, and that's what we're trying to use. So if we want to somehow create it once and then keep it in memory and reuse, we have to use this new command, cypress-data-session. And the parameters, we'll give it a name. Word list seems appropriate. And right now we need two things, right? We need a setup, right? How do we create the word list? And how do we create it? Well, when we run the test, right, we do the following. We intercept the request, right, and we return the window property word list. So let's do this, right? So inside the setup, we'll set up the intercept, we'll visit the page, right? And it will yield us the window object. So we just say its property word list. And the second piece that we do need is we have to validate, right? How do we know that whatever data session keeps in memory is still valid? Well, in our case, it's pretty simple, right? We can return true and say whatever you have in memory, as long as it's not undefined, just use that. Okay, so that's good to go. We're going to keep everything the same, and we're going to remove the word list intercept because we don't need it anymore. And while we do need the word list somehow, right? We need to get it. So how do we get it from the data session that we created? So because we gave data session name, which is required, it automatically creates an alias. So we can use this alias by changing our test function from a fat error to function expression. In that case, we can access our data session by doing simply this word list. So let's see this word list. All right, and we can remove this because we got our word list already there. And let's see if this works. Cannot call, yes, of course, right? Well, we're not inside the test, so we're gonna call it before each test, and it's not expensive because it will run the setup on the first time when there is nothing in memory, on a second test, it will say, hey, I have something in memory, it's still valid, it's not undefined, so let's just use it. So the first time it runs, okay, cannot read properties undefined reading word list. Okay, let's look at the thing. I'm sure this is just a scope question. I put it in a wrong way. So here it doesn't really matter, right? It's the function callback inside the it that matters. So the first time it runs, notice it'll actually create word list in a previous run, and the word list is still there, so we can directly start using it. And the second time it runs, it's still valid. So right now the word list still is in memory. If I do a hard reload, but memory is gone. And so the first time it runs, notice it says first time for session word list, it visited the website, grab a word list, stored it in memory. Second test runs, word list is already there in memory, it's all good. Now we can actually solve this and store the word list not even in memory of this current browser session, but inside the plugin file. In that way, it will survive hard reloads and also will be shareable between the specs themselves. So to do that, we'll say share across specs true. Okay. Now, in this case, notice it has some additional things like save, right? And stores it in a plugin file. Let's see if we have it. I don't think we write a message by default, unfortunately. But here's the thing. If I close the spec now, the browser is gone. And I open the browser again, that word list is now loaded from the plugin memory space that says open, and we immediately start our testing. So by using cypress-data-session plugin, you can conveniently create, cache, recreate, and share some data items that you need for your tests.